Puzzle Boys is something kind of special. This is the very first console game that Atlus ever published. Alright, at this point they've been developing games for years, and they published one other game for the Game Boy before this, but this is still a first. That Game Boy game was titled Puzzle Boy, so things are about to get a little bit messy. We have a bit of an Agerland situation here. Puzzle Boys on the FDS and Puzzle Boy on the PC Engine are about 75% ports of the Game Boy Puzzle Boy. The basic game mechanics are the same, and a lot of the puzzles are the same. What all this amounts to is that all of these games share some, but not all of their puzzles. The console versions do get more puzzles, but then some of those puzzles get backported to the sequels on the Game Boy. It's a situation where every version has something different from all of the other versions, but there's a lot of overlap between them regardless. Really, the whole situation feels like it was engineered for maximum confusion. However, the Game Boy version wasn't the original version of this. The real originator was Maze-Kun for the PC-88. That's a game that Atlus developed but did not publish. And of course there's significant but not total overlap with the puzzle design. Puzzle Boys is a Sokoban-style puzzler. Or to use a term that doesn't reference a particular game, this is a block pusher. Regardless of game mode, your goal is to get to the exit. Your path to the exit is blocked by, blocks. And you'll have to figure out how to get them out of the way. You have standard blocks, which aren't necessarily one-square blocks. They can be much larger than that. When you bump up into these and push in a direction, if there's nothing behind it, it'll go in that direction. These blocks interact with holes. You can't walk over the hole in the floor, but if you push a block into it, it'll get filled in, making a new path. Though the blocks do have to fit the hole exactly. If the block is larger than the hole, it'll just slide over it. Some of the blocks are on pivots. These will rotate when you push into them, assuming there's nothing stopping that block from rotating. The game doesn't take into account how corners will poke out a little bit further, so as long as the destination square is clear, and the squares that you have to rotate through are clear, then you'll be able to move it. Most of the puzzles involve being able to free one of those blocks for rotation, or getting around those rotating blocks, so that when it rotates, you wind up in the correct place. A few puzzles have two characters in them, and you can swap between which character you're controlling by pressing the select button. In these puzzles, you generally have to move one character into a place where they'll get trapped, but then they have a different direction that they can push the blocks. There are 3 different game modes here: Puzzle Challenge, Solo Trial, and 2-player Battle. In Puzzle Mode, there's 80 puzzles, and you just try to solve them. You can do them in any order, but when you clear a puzzle, you're given the choice to just continue on to the next one. In Solo Trial, you choose how many stages you'd like to take on, and how difficult they should be, and then you try to clear that many puzzle chambers. Here the exit is walking off the edge of the screen. Which puzzles you do are randomized. There's roughly 25 of each difficulty, and you're really only competing against the clock. For both the Puzzle Challenge and Solo Trial, if you hit the A button, you'll bring up a menu that lets you restart the puzzle, rewind a move, or go back to the main menu. You can also press the Start button to get a zoomed-out view of the whole puzzle, and even play the game from this extended view. Though, I think it's better to look at it close up. 2-player Battle Mode works very similar to the Solo Trial, only now you and an opponent are racing to complete the same set of puzzles. That means it's a little bit hard to get ahead, because if someone's paying attention, they'll see the solution when you do it. This battle mode's a carryover from the Game Boy, but there everyone has their own screen, so it works a little bit better in that situation. There's one more thing that I have to mention about Puzzle Boys, and that's the load times. The game has to completely load every map in challenge mode. So after you clear something and move on to the next stage, you have to sit there a while before you can take a look at the next puzzle. It really breaks the flow of the game. and I've got to wonder why they didn't have multiple maps in memory just to cut down on the load time a bit. This doesn't affect the puzzles in trial mode or the two-player battle, so they were definitely capable of loading more than just that one map at a time. This is going to surprise you, but Puzzle Boys isn't quite as obscure as a lot of the other Famicom Disk System games from this point. I mean, it's still obscure, but I think the connection to a more popular puzzle game helped save it from being completely overlooked. Of course, by not as obscure, I mean I could actually find people talking about this one, and generally people like it. My view is that this is a good puzzle game, but I'd rather play one of the other versions. Get one of the 3 Game Boy games, play the PC Engine version. You're getting most of the same game that way, just without the absurd loading times. Basically, Puzzle Boys is a good game, but there's better versions that are more easily available.